making life a lot lighter and happier, and that there's a lot of range that the audience has to choose the way they live their life. Is that kind of, is there a message there that you're trying to put forward, or are you just putting something on a piece of canvas and?
Yeah, I think is there a message in the movie of a way for people to behave, choices that they can make to?
Right. Is there some intentional?
I understand. I understand. There is implicitly, but I mean, you know, the truth is, I don't really make films or want to make films which lay it on the line and say, think this. I mean, I think my films work in such a way as you walk away with plenty of stuff to think about, to argue about, to reflect about, to wonder about, to, you know, consider in various ways. But what that's all about, what all those things are obviously to do with in the context of this particular film are the things that you're talking about, are, you know, how to deal with life, how we deal with choices, how we, you know, choose to live. I mean, somebody yesterday asked me, said, oh, well, at the end, the girls drift away in a boat. Are they, did I think that they are drifting in life? And I was too polite to say so, but I think it's a deeply stupid question. because they're not, these women are not, they've made choices, they take responsibility, you know, they teach kids, they went to Thailand to teach and all that stuff, you know. So, but, and then when Poppy goes down to visit Helen, her pregnant sister, with the others, and there's that confrontation in the room, and Helen's really saying to me, you've got to grow up, and you've got to conform, and, you know, you should settle down and all that stuff. And she's saying, well, you know, I'm happy, I like my life, she's saying I'm fulfilled, basically. And it's not that she's saying, I never want to have anything to do with responsibility, but she's a mature... We don't accept your apologies. They'll be round tomorrow morning, just before breakfast, to break your legs. You know, there's somebody who is, they're making, but it's for you to decide whether you think that that's healthy or unhealthy or whatever you want. I mean, so it's not for me to...
But you are putting that out there.
Well, that's what the film's about. You can't deny, I can't deny it, but that's for you to, I mean, you can see, it relates to your lives in whatever way you think.
So how did she break her collarbone? Did she fall on her high heels?
I'd said that at the beginning. I reported how she did that at the beginning.
Oh, I was away. I'm sorry.
So she broke it in a badly organised stunt, in an Irish movie. But that's
okay.
I have a comment and a question. I felt the opening segment when she was riding her bicycle was brilliant, in that it, without saying anything to us, at least for me, it said an awful lot about the character. I don't know how much of that was Sally and how much of it was you, but it certainly got us off to a great start. Now the question is, given Hollywood's mania for timing and getting everything done within a certain time frame because of the budget, and I'm sure it's not true for you now given your stature, but was it hard at the beginning to find money to make film the way you make it?
For the first part of your question goes, I mean, it's not a question of it being, was it Sally or was it me? It was actually the whole thing was a collaboration between, first of all, between me and her. It's the character, not the actress, or, you know, it's the character that's doing the work, because we created the character, and it's her behaving as she cycles around London. But it's also, of course, you know, it's a movie, this, and we've only talked about actors, but actually it's the way it's shot. I mean, and it's shot brilliantly by this great cinematographer, Dick Pope, who has worked on my films for a very long time. And, you know, the way we filmed it, we're driving around with a camera in the back of a vehicle and, you know, doing all that. I mean, it's a very collaborative effort. And of course, Sally who's got great physical strength. You know, was able to cycle around and do all that, and you know, but all those things add up. And also the music by Gary Gershon is very important in that opening sequence. A great composer that, you know, found his own remote emotional response to the film and worked with me very closely. And, you know, we developed that opening theme tune. And, you know, it's all those elements add up together. It's interesting, your other question. I mean, yeah, I mean, it is tough to and it continues to be tough for me, as for everybody, to get the money to make these films. But you said, given the way Hollywood functions, but this is not a Hollywood film, and I don't make films in Hollywood. I mean, this is a British independent, it's a European film, and it has nothing to do with Hollywood at all.
I was pointing out the contrast, I think.
Well, it's not, but we still have the same problem. You've still got, films cost money, and you've got the constraints of time and all those things. But you know, I think the question was to do with how it started, or was it?
I guess what I'm really trying to ask is, and maybe it's too personal a question, forgive me if it is this an expensive film, or was it an expensive film to make?
It's not a personal question. I didn't pay for it myself. I would that I had that kind of money in a suitcase under my bed. It cost in dollars. I suppose it cost. I don't know where we are now because it's all gone so pear-shaped. But it was made last year and it cost about £6.75 million. So what's that?
12 million.
12 million. So it's cheap, low budget, very low budget.
Yeah. I guess I want to know a little more about where you got started. You said that this kind of a movie would never work unless you got all these great actors together to put it together in the first place. So when you were trying to get started, how could you say, oh, I'll just take all these great actors and make them spend 6 months with me to create a movie? How did that sort of start?
I want to know about how the project got started, when you said...
You mean this?
No, I mean,
You don't-
earlier
when I started.
You weren't as well known.
Well, I mean, in the period before I made my first movie, that's what I wanted to do. And I originally trained as an actor, and I went to art school and film school. And I worked in the theatre a lot, and I made a lot of plays very cheaply. In what then we started to call the fringe, you know, little theatres in poor theatres. And I made plays in the way that I now make these movies, until I could get one made in the early 1971. And then after that, I did a lot of films for television, because you couldn't make movies in the UK. And mostly for the BBC, where it was very liberal, and the people let me do stuff. And by the time it became possible to make feature films for the cinema, I'd established that, and they were very popular at television. One questioner referred to one of those films earlier on, not in May. And so by the time we got to the late 80s, I'd sort of got some kind of a reputation for doing that kind of work, and it became possible to do it in the cinema. But the thing about the actors is that we've got an amazing resource of brilliant actors in the UK, and you know, they're there. And I wish I could say I was going to get around to working with all of the ones that are good and that I'd like to before I die. I won't, because there are too many of them. But it's great.
I was hoping you could talk a little bit about the flamenco teacher. I was struck by the contrast between the two of them, and I couldn't help thinking what they each must think of each other.
Yeah.
What about the flamenco teacher, the contrast between the two characters, and what do they think of each other?
What, Poppy and the flamenco teacher? Well, I think the thing about Poppy and the flamenco teacher, because there is hardly the scope in the framework of the story for anything by way of a relationship. I mean, I think you get the relationship between the two of them, such as it is, in the brief moment where there is one. But I think what's interesting, since you asked the question, is about the flamenco teacher herself, because first of all, I think the most interesting thing you will find about this character is this, the actress, who is called Karina Fernandez, is in fact not Spanish at all. Her father is Spanish, but she's very English. But she's a brilliant character actress. And she's actually never done flamenco at all before we did the film. What happened was that, you know, it's in the way that I develop these things, that I've got the main action on the go, and then I have actors join in as it develops. I schedule them, I contract them to join in, and I very often don't really know what I'm going to do with them until they arrive, and then I get creative and start working that out. Sally and I were talking about Poppy one day, and I said, well, we've got her doing trampoline, and we've got her taking driving lessons. I think she should have some other leisure time activity. And Sally said, well, I've been thinking about this, and I was wondering whether she might do salsa or tango or something like that. And I, who have a little bit of a passion for flamenco on the quiet, I said, well, what about flamenco, you see? And she said, oh, it's great, yes. So I got hold of, when I saw Karina Fernandez, I said, okay, flamenco teacher. So we sent her off to flamenco classes every day for weeks, and she really absorbed it. I mean, that's what happens on these movies. I mean, they're all the people that play teachers, they all went and worked with kids and did all that. I mean, you know, Eddie Marsan playing Scott went and researched being a driving instructor, apart from also researching all the conspiracy theories and the rubbish that's going around. No, he did, and I mean, you Google all that crap that he comes out with, and you'll find all kinds of stuff out there. I mean, you know, just on YouTube alone, there's and so she did that, and then she and I invented this Spanish character, and then we sent her off to Seville for a long weekend. Some people get all the perks of this job, and but you know, with all the characters, we create the whole life of the character and everything that's going on, the whole backstory, as they say. And it's very often, you know, loads of it just isn't there in the film. It's there in the foundations. It's there it's implicit there, but you don't necessarily, you know, you the audience don't know about it. But it's there for me to utilize if it seems to make sense. And I thought there's got to be a way, because we created this woman with all this stuff going on with this guy cheating on her and all this. And so I thought, well, let's pull this up, let's pull it out and get it going on in the scene. And so, as the women say in the next scene, she's really a very good teacher, because she's found a way of motivating everyone to do the flamenco thing, you know. It's my space. But of course, since the film is about teaching and learning, that's another theme. I mean, the thing about her as a teacher, good teacher as she is, of course, she hasn't learned one of the #1 rules of teaching, which is that you leave all your personal crap outside the door. You know? But it's a brilliant performance, isn't it? And she, you know,
she walks out.
You know, but here's an actress that just comes and gives you, and in a way, it's what we were talking about before. I mean, you know, if one had to kind of drag that out of an actor, it would be just terrible. But the point is, here's somebody that brings all this to it, and it's a joy to work with. And hopefully, and I think the other thing is about that scene. One of the things that the way I think about what to put in a film, and one of the words I use, I will talk about certain things in a film being a treats for the audience. Certain scenes I regard as a treat. That's a treat scene, you know. I mean, like it's a standalone thing, you know. It just suddenly you get this little treat, this mini feast in the middle of the film, just to kind of keep you going between the boring bits, just the poppy bits.
In the creative collaborative process that you developed, were you at all influenced by Peter Brook?
Were you, in the process, was he at all influenced by Peter Brook?
Yeah, I was, very much so. In the early 60s, when I was, you know, absorbing things and learning about things, Peter Brook in a way, the heyday of a lot of his work with the Royal Shakespeare Company. And one of the inspirations that led me to do what I do was when he did that production, which was made into a film. He redirected as a film, but it was a stage play really, about the